Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order at 7:00 p.m. Welcome to the March 24th, 2025 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all in attendance today, please note that this Planning Commission meeting is being held in person and using the Zoom webinar format. Please note that we are not accepting remote public comment during commission meetings. Agenda item number 2, roll call. The record should note that 5 members of the commission are present this evening. Commissioner Haran and Commissioner Camarado are absent. Agenda item number 3, request for AB 2249 remote participation. I don't believe there are any commissioners asking for that this evening. We'll move on to agenda item number 4, review of the agenda. Staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
We do not have any changes.
Commission, do we have any recusals?
Yes.
Commissioner Say?
I will be recusing from item 8A as we are the project architect.
Noted. All right, agenda item number 5, public comment, non-agenda. Members of the public may speak about any item not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for a future planning commission agenda may do so during the public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the planning commission from acting on any matter that is not on our agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on any item that is not on our agenda? And did we receive any public comment email?
We did not. The only public comment email we received was for item for 1430 Chapin, and that was provided to you all. I do have extra copies if you need to see that. We can get to that. Yeah.
Thanks, Ruben. Okay, move on to agenda item number 6, consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine. They are acted on simultaneously unless separate discussion and/or action is requested by the applicant, a member of the public, or a commissioner prior to the time the commission votes on the motion to adopt. This evening, we have 4 items on the consent calendar. First one is item 6A, approval of the March 10th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Would any member of the public or Planning Commission like to pull this item for discussion? No? Any comments?
Just for 6A?
We can do all 4, can we? Or
We can do them all together. You can ask the public. You can name each item in the address, ask the public, ask the commissioners, and then if one gets pulled, then we can proceed with it being an action item.
Very well. So we have 4 items. Item 6A is the March 10th Planning Commission meeting minutes. Item 6B is 132 Channing Road. Item 6C is 456 Cumberland Road. And item 6D is 1245 Laguna Avenue. Would any member of the public or the Planning Commission like to pull any of these items for discussion? Commissioner Say.
Yes, I do have a quick question or clarification on item 6B.
Do you want to pull it?
Is that now or?
Well, we'll have to vote on the other 3 items, and then we can take up that one separately.
Okay, so item 6A, 6C, and 6D. Would any member of the public or Planning Commission like to pull that one? Pull those 3? No? Did we have any motions? We'll move through those.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent items. No, I forgot what you said. 6A,
6C, 6D.
6C, and 6D.
I second that.
All right, motion by Commissioner Schmitz, seconded by Commissioner Pfaff. Any discussion? No? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Acting Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. That motion passes 5-0-0-2. So now we can move on to 6D, 132 Channing Road. Commissioner Say you wanted to pull that one?
Yes, please. Just
Okay.
a question.
We don't need to summarize the staff report, so you can ask a question, and then either myself or Fazia can answer.
Okay. Yeah, so I see that the applicant did choose to extend the front, the eave over the front doorway as we had requested. I don't see a change in the proposed roof plan or really a change in the front elevation. I just wanted to make sure I could see it on the right elevation, but I didn't see any changes on the front elevation or the roof plan. I just wanted to make sure that it was going to be carried through.
So we can ask the applicant if they're available online. Amalia, can you check to see if? Okay, so perhaps Elaine can answer that question.
Eileen, if you could please unmute yourself. We see you, but you're still on mute.
He's saying 1 minute or.
If the applicant is unable to unmute herself, staff can ensure that the plans are revised, the roof plan is revised to reflect that extension. But I believe that the extension was made to the roof.
It looks
We'll
like-
just ensure that it's consistent throughout all the sheets.
She coming on? It looks like it was intended. It was just missing on those drawings, and so I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, I believe the staff report indicates that
Yeah.
that it was intended that they were making that change. Staff can ensure that those changes are correctly shown on all building elevations, roof plan, and such.
Okay, should I make a motion?
Sure.
So I'd like to move that we approve this project with the condition that that the proposed roof plan and the proposed front elevation are reflective of the extended eave over the front entryway.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Say, second by Commissioner Pfaff. Any other discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Acting Vice Chair Shores, Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. So that motion passes 5002. And that concludes our consent calendar for this week. Moving on to agenda item number 7, action items. We have one item this evening, item 7A, 737 Lexington Way. If you are the applicant and are attending the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit this project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communication regarding this project? All right, seeing none, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Staff report.
This application is for major design review, variance for front setback, and special permit for first floor plate height for a new 2-story single-unit dwelling and attached garage, zoned R1. The subject property is an interior lot and currently contains a 1-story single-unit dwelling and attached 1-car garage. The applicant proposes to demolish majority of the existing dwelling and attached garage and build a new 2-story single-unit dwelling and 1-car attached garage. A portion of the dwelling, 486 square feet, will contain a new attached accessory dwelling unit. The total proposed floor area would be 2,699 square feet, where 2,701 square feet is the maximum allowed. Per state law, review of the ADU application is administrative only and is not reviewed by the Planning Commission. Staff has determined the ADU complies with ADU regulations. The new dwelling would contain 4 bedrooms. 2 parking spaces are required, one which must be covered. 1 covered space is provided in the new attached garage, and 1 uncovered space is provided in the driveway. All other zoning code requirements have been met. Staff would note the applicant decided not to add roof overhangs on the gable ends per the commission's comment on February 24th Planning Commission meeting, but has addressed all other comments. Staff is recommending approval for the request for major design review, variance, and special permit based on the findings in the staff report and resolution. This concludes my summary. If there's any questions for staff, I'm available at this time.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for staff? No? All right, I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Hi, Randy Grange, TRG Architects. So I'll just go over the changes rather than represent the whole thing. That the upstairs window on the left side used to be 3-panel, but it was kind of flat on the house, and you guys wanted it to match the trim and stuff on the back. So we added that. I think it does improve the house. And then the trim profiles are there because, you know, that trim is significantly proud of the stucco to add a little extra depth to it, which I think is also, I mean, we were doing that anyway, but you didn't know that. So we're showing you that we're doing that. And then the other thing was, I wasn't sure when I left if the roof on the gable was a thought or a demand or what it was, but I had a couple of pictures. I don't know if you can put them up. Because if you go around, not that, the sent photos to the planning department.
I don't think we have that, Randy.
Was that?
I don't.
Oh, because it was confirmed that you had it today.
Oh, that's the one I sent you earlier about to Brittany with the updated revised.
Well, I can,
Oh, there you go.
I can describe it. I mean, every block in Burlingame has a couple of these kind of Tudor-based homes, and half of them or more have the flat rake like that. And half of those, again, don't have any trim at all. That's just the stucco goes up and the roof edge comes out. The ones that actually have the rake overhang, usually it's a big barge rafter, but it might have some shape to it or something, which is out of character with what we're trying to do. So I didn't think it was necessary to add that because it's kind of a different look than what we're going for. But if it's critical that you guys think we have to have it, maybe get a condition of approval and add like a 6-inch gable rake overhang on it. But that's it for me.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I'm just curious. So, because we haven't had a chance to deal with this on our level as far as having someone present stucco differences, but I'm presuming that you're doing completely smooth stucco?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, smooth. And so out of curiosity, the home that you just showed us, or maybe this one, they're not completely smooth, right? They have a little bit of a,
Right. Well, that's true. But I mean, I personally, if you want texture on stucco, we could. But,
no,
I mean,
just observation.
the intent of this is to have it resemble these older houses, but have it also feel contemporary at the same time.
Mhm.
And so that's what we're trying to do in the smooth stucco, I think. Just a simple, clean facade, but when you walk by it, it feels like an old house, and then you look at it a second time, and it actually isn't. So that's sort of what we're trying to do.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? Thank you very much. Do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, any thoughts or motions?
Well, I appreciate the detail he's given us, particularly on what was bothering me, that the flatness of the window trim, and I think it looks better, and it's a nice project, and I don't have any additional comments, so I can make a motion. Does someone have a comment about the little things, whether yes or no? Or
You good? No.
okay. All right, then I move to approve, what is this item again? Sorry.
7A.
7A, as presented.
And there's conditions, or there's a
Oh, with the special, see, I should have,
plate
Variance.
or
blade height variant, yeah, the variance,
And-
blade height variance,
setback.
and the front setback issue, yes. Mhm.
And that's based on the facts and the findings in the resolution.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Pfaff, seconded by Commissioner Say. Any other discussion? No? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Acting Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Lowenthal.
Aye. That motion passes 5002. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by appeal fee of $900, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations. All right, that concludes agenda item number 7. On to agenda item number 8. We'll let Commissioner Say recuse from item 8A, 1144 Oxford Road. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communication regarding this project? Okay, seeing none, and I'll let the record know Commissioner Say is recusing from this item 8A. Can we get a staff report, please?
This application is for major design review and special permits for second floor balcony and declining height envelope, and the plate height for first and second story addition to an existing single unit dwelling zoned R1. The subject property is an interior lot and currently contains a split level 2-story single unit dwelling and attached 1-car garage. The applicant proposes interior remodeling and first and second story addition at the rear of the house. The total proposed floor area would be 2,772 square feet, where 4,024 square feet is the maximum allowed, including 30 square feet front porch, 97 square feet mechanical room, and 568 square foot ADU exemptions. A special permit is being requested for the proposed 50 square feet second floor uncovered balcony at the rear of the house. The proposed balcony meets the setback requirements for our second floor balcony. There is an existing 22 square feet second floor balcony at the front of the house, which will be retained. The existing and proposed second floor balconies, 72 square feet combined, would be under the 75 square foot maximum allowed. The split level design and raised finish floor of the house, approximately 5 feet above grade, affects the declining height envelope. Therefore, a special permit for declining height envelope is also being requested for the proposed second story addition along the right side of the house. The dwelling would contain 4 bedrooms. The existing attached garage is to be converted into an accessory dwelling unit. The existing covered parking is not required to be replaced on site. 1 uncovered parking space is provided in the driveway. Therefore, the project is in compliance with off-street parking requirements. This concludes my summary. If there's any questions for staff, I'm available at this time.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for staff? No? Okay. Now I'm going to open the public hearing. Will the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
It's transitioning right now.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Lauren. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, commissioners. This is Lauren Lee from Insight Design, and I am representing our clients, Stephen Menequale and Rosemary Kendrick, owners of 1144 Oxford Road. Stephen and Rosemary's family needs have outgrown their existing home. They very much enjoy their home and neighborhood, so we have helped them to design an addition that both preserves and enhances the original Spanish style of the home. Excuse me. The proposed design converts their current 3-bedroom, 2-bath home into a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath home with an ADU conversion on the lowest level. As you can see from the elevations and renderings, the second floor addition is set back to preserve the design scale of the front elevation, and the addition at the rear elevation is a noticeable improvement to the current design. We have also preserved all the exterior finishes and the window grid patterns to further retain the existing design style of the home. As mentioned, our application does request 3 special permits. First, the primary bedroom balcony at the rear elevation, which is well within the planning limitations. Second, we are proposing an 8-foot, 4-inch plate height at the second floor addition that retains the ceiling heights designed when this house was originally constructed. Also, the second floor addition is set back, as I mentioned, 38 feet from the front property line, therefore diminishing the height appearance from the street elevation. Third, the second floor addition on the right side penetrates the declining height envelope for about 13 feet at the very top portion of the walls in the primary suite addition. For us, it was a logical and more efficient structural design to build directly on top of the lower level walls rather than to step the upper walls in by 17 inches. You can see that along the right side, bedroom number 2 currently cantilevers into the side yard, and the proposed addition is set in from that and aligns with the existing walls at bedroom number 1 and number 3, therefore continuing that line along the right side of the building. Also, from the rear elevation, we felt a 17-inch step in would prevent us from creating a balanced and symmetrical design that we feel greatly improves the aesthetic of the home. Thank you. That's all I have at this time. And Stephen and Rosemary would like to say a few words about their project.
Yes, please go ahead.
Do I come up here?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rosemary Kendrick. I'll just share on behalf of myself and Stephen. Thank you for your time. We've been in Burlingame for 7 years, owners 4 of those, and we love it here and want to continue to invest in this community. Our reason for the remodel is simple. We moved in with 1 child. We now have 3. We need more space. And we wanted to rebuild on the natural historic nature and the gardens around it. I've just mentioned, we've spoken to both of our 2 adjacent neighbors, walked them through the plans. They don't have any concerns and are supportive. So thank you again for your time. And we'll be in Burlingame for many years to come. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Rosemary. Commissioners, please let me know if you have any questions on the proposed design. And at this time, we would also like to request an opportunity to address any questions that may come up once the public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I think
Commissioner Schmidt?
you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm, based on the drawings, I'm seeing that the driveway is staying in the same spot and the planter with the tree on the left side in front of the window would suggest that they're going to remain. But the rendering kind of shows a wider driveway and no tree there. So is the intent to take the tree out or keep it in?
We do not intend to remove any trees, so the rendering perhaps may not be showing all of the existing trees.
And that's fine. I just wanted to clarify because otherwise the
Yeah.
elevation looks very flat on that left side, just as a drawing. But if the landscaping is staying largely the same as the way it is, then I'm fine with that because the landscaping does a nice job of articulating that corner nicely.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pfaff, do you have a question?
No, that kind of covered it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, do we have any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak on this item? Nope. Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, how do we feel?
Well, I think that this is a very good use of the, they've kept a lot of the integrity of the home, and therefore I could definitely find grounds for the special permit on the height. It's very little too, and fits this home, and think it's great that they've reused so many parts. I think it's well done, really well done.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's a lovely design, and I don't have any qualms with special permit for plate height, special permit for balcony, or the special permit for declining height envelope.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the project based on the findings and facts in the staff report, including.
This is a study session, so your options are to place it on the consent calendar or place it on the action calendar. If there are no changes, we could also set it to a date certain, and then there's no noticing requirement. So, I mean, if there are absolutely no changes, you might as well think about putting it on the consent calendar at the following meeting.
I make a motion that we bring it back on the consent calendar.
Second?
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt, second by Commissioner Pfaff. Any other comments? No? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Acting Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. That motion passes 4012. And we'll see you back at the consent. And then we can bring in, back in Commissioner Say. All right, moving on to agenda item 8B, 1430 Chapin Avenue. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communication regarding this project? Seeing none, and we have no recusals this evening, let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we have a staff report, please?
Yes, there are some slides that go along with this as well. The applicant is requesting major design review, special permit for building height, amendments to the downtown specific plan and zoning codes for maximum height, and a lot merger and condominium map. Next slide, please. The site's an interior lot and the existing single-story commercial building will be demolished. The applicant proposes a new 18,267 square foot office building that is 5 stories with 2 levels of below-grade parking. Next slide, please. Here we see an architectural drawing of the front and right side of the proposed building. There are no minimum required setbacks to the front or side property lines. The design proposed provides tiered setbacks at the front and 5-foot, 1-foot setbacks at the right and left sides. The 5th story has a front setback that's almost 70 feet from the setback for the bottom 4 floors. Next slide, please. Here we see the rear and left sides of the proposed building. The required rear setback, which abuts existing residential development, is 20 feet. The applicant is proposing tiered setbacks at the rear that meet this minimum setback. Next slide. The proposed building height is 74 feet 6 inches, which exceeds the maximum allowed height in the downtown specific plan and in the Chapin Avenue Commercial Zoning District. The applicant is requesting amendments to both of these documents to increase the maximum allowable height in this district. Next slide, please. The screen shows the downtown zoning with the CAC zone shown in orange and the site outlined in red. Currently, maximum heights are 35 feet by right and 55 feet with a special permit. The applicant is requesting to amend these limits for just the orange CAC zoning district to 60 feet by right and 75 feet with a special permit. For reference, the brown zone, which is just to the west of the site, is R4 high density residential, and then the darker blue zone is which is Howard mixed use, allow a maximum height of 75 feet currently. The dark red zone, which is Burlingame Avenue Commercial, and the lilac zone, which is the Donnelly Avenue Commercial, allow a maximum height of 55 feet. Although it should be noted that current state density bonus law would allow maximum heights for any of these districts to potentially be exceeded for housing developments that have below market rate housing. Next slide, please. That concludes the staff presentation for the project. The remaining project details are listed in the staff report along with design review criteria and the downtown specific plan design and character criteria. The applicant and architect are present and have a presentation of their own to give. At the conclusion of the public hearing for this item, the commission will have the option of voting to put this item on a consent or action calendar or voting to continue this project to a second study hearing with direction given to the applicant. Second study hearings are typical for projects of this size. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for staff?
I do. It's a confusion question. Erica, could you go back to the slide showing the downtown specific plan? So are they I've misunderstood the paperwork. Are they asking for both the south and the north side to be amended, or just the north side?
The entire zone.
Oh,
That was at planning staff recommendation to avoid any spot zonings.
hmm.
It would be both, all of the Chapin Avenue Commercial Area District.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Say.
Yeah, Erica, you mentioned there was a additional height or taller height limit for projects that include housing, affordable housing or density, whatever the yes. What is that height? Is there?
No maximum.
Oh, no max.
So it'd be subject to any, the ALUCP, which in this district, I don't think there's no airport limit. At 75 feet, I believe you do hit additional requirements for fire. So it's considered to be a high rise, and there would be a different kind of construction that would be required and emergency access, but there is no limit to the actual height.
And I don't know if this is a question for you or the applicant, but is there any significant difference between the 55-foot to the 60-foot by right height limit? Obviously 5 feet, but is there something about that 5 feet that improves the development?
You know, I
We
would
can ask that.
refer that to the applicant. I'm not sure why they chose 60 and 75 when previously the jump was slightly different between 35 and 55. So maybe they can address that.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? All right, thank you. We're going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you'd like to add about your project?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Neil Young. I am the Managing Principal of Develop Urban. We're really excited to be here tonight. We've been working on this project internally and with staff for a number of years now, so we're excited to get your feedback here tonight. I'm here with Haley Coughlin from Lever Architecture. They've done some really amazing work with mass timber, and so we're excited to see what they've done here tonight. If you can go to the next slide. This is the agenda that we're going to cover tonight, but really our goal here is to really just listen to your feedback. I've found in the developments we've done here in the peninsula that the most important thing is to have a good alignment of interest between the community and our development goals. And when we can get that, we can deliver a building that may look different from a design perspective, but can be well aligned in the community's interest and look like the building had been designed and been there for a long time. So if we can go to the next slide. Our vision here for the project is really to create a workspace that attracts the best employers and employees to the project site and ultimately to downtown. And we think in the way to do that is to deliver a highly differentiated space that meets the needs for today's office. You can go to the next slide. This is our design and how we envision that. It's a fully massed timber building that we've designed to offer flexibility and smaller scale suites in an environment that fosters socialization, connectivity, and productive work environment. Our take on the building design, you can see here, it's a fully massed timber building. I'll talk through the building as we start from the ground floor. We'll be anchored by JP Morgan Chase, who will take a retail branch there in the corner of the site. They are excited to have the building and the site redeveloped so that they can move their new branch concept in that focuses much more on client relationships and fostering a sense of community than it does on the transactional relationship that most bank branches currently are set up as. Also on the ground floor, we're looking to have a food and beverage concept, likely a cafe or a coffee shop, something that is very active on the street so we can really engage and improve that street front activity because that is so much of the character that's amazing here in downtown Burlingame. We want to offer that character here at Chapin. As we go to the rear of the building on the ground floor, we will have something called the social hub, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. If you can go to the next slide. As we go above the building and through the space, we have 4 stories of office that is fully massed timber in its construction. I show this image because you can kind of see the beauty of the space and what you can really capture in the warmth and how that works. What we're trying to do is blur the lines between indoor and outdoor, blur the lines between workspace and home. And you can see here how you can really connect an outdoor room and an indoor room and be very transparent in that nature. If you go to the next slide. This is a view from the 5th floor, and I just wanted to reiterate that the sense of landscaping and biophilic design will be strong throughout the project. We really want people to see green no matter where they are, whether they're in the project, whether they're outside the project, or in an adjacent building. We wanted to design it where the mass timber is very visible, as well as all the lush greenness that represents a lot of what you see in downtown Burlingame. You can go to the next slide. I mentioned the idea of a social club. This would be grounded on the ground floor. The idea being to attract people back to the workforce and back to the office. You need to give them an environment that gives them some of the comforts of home, but then also is a productive work environment. And some of these social clubs or work clubs have been quite successful. We take cues from stuff like the Noe House, Soho House, and Shack 15 in the San Francisco Ferry Building. These are spaces that are a little more relaxed in their nature, lounges, places you can meet and have a meeting that's not as intimidating as something in a conference room, have flex space for office tenants, as well as maybe have an all-hands meeting. So as the requirement for office tenants has changed and they need slightly smaller footprints, it doesn't mean they need less amenity space. And so we're trying to deliver best-in-class amenity space to deliver best-in-class space for the building. If you go to the next slide, here's a look and feel of what some of that might look like. What we're going to cover next in the next slide is a little bit about mass timber and why we chose that as a construction type. I'll hand that off to Haley, who will go through that.
Next slide, please. Great. So this is an example of a one-way mass timber building with glulands and CLT. This is the same structural system we're proposing on 1430 Chapin. It's a quick erection, a quiet erection, and ends up being really beautiful. Next slide, please. So at the heart of any great sustainable project is an adaptable, equitable, and viable solution. Mass timber is a structural building system that allows us to meet each of these goals. Next slide. In addition to reducing energy spent on building operations, mass timber allows embodied carbon reduction. So trees absorb carbon throughout their lifetime, and when they cut down for lumber, they entomb the carbon in the tree, keeping it from being released back into the atmosphere through fire or other means of destruction. Next slide. Sourcing domestically where possible and working with fabricators early on allows us to design a system around available parts. So planning for minimal material cuts, reducing waste, cost, and reducing time for construction. Next slide. Additionally, the beauty and warmth from incorporating wood into design can have a huge impact on how we experience a space. Next slide. With the large spans and deep beams, the structural system allows for much more flexibility and adaptability in connecting the materials we use to build to the spaces we live. Thanks. I'm going to hand it back to Neil to chat about heights.
The look and feel of the space you see here is very indicative of the beauty of mass timber. It's very transparent, and we think the feel that you get from inside the space can be very much the same as what you're looking as you're looking from outside the building. If you can go to the next slide. Erica touched on a little bit of this, so I'll go over this quickly, and this may answer the question that came up earlier about 55 feet versus 60 feet. So when we were designing the building and looking at the 55-foot height limit, what we found challenging is fitting 4 floors of institutional quality heights for office and retail within that 55-foot height limit. So regardless of whether it was concrete construction or steel construction, or going to the next slide, mass timber, which has even deeper floor plates with the depth of the beams and the CLT panels, we found it challenging to fit 4 floors and get 10-foot clear heights on drop ceilings for the office and a minimum of 12 foot 6 inches on a drop ceiling for the retail, which is what the requirement the Chase Bank had. So that's part of the reason why we felt we needed to look at potentially designing beyond 55 feet. If you go to the next slide, you'll see this is the building design with mass timber and a steel hybrid, which is where we tried to decrease the depth of the beams and the floor plates to fit within 55 feet. And our trade-off was if we were able to give Chase the minimum clear heights they needed on the retail floors, we were unable to give institutional quality clear heights for the office floors. And that led us to discussions with staff, which said, okay, well, maybe we can look at designing something beyond the 55 feet. And that's where we come to the next slide, please, is a 75-foot height limit. So the difference between 55 and 60 has some significance because that allows us to just squeeze in, we think, 4 stories of mass timber within the 60-foot height limit. And then going to 75 allows us to get very generous and adequate clear heights on each floor. We meet Chase Bank's minimum clearance on the retail floor. We get minimum 10-foot clears on the office, and at 75 feet, we're able to get a 5th floor in. If you go to the next slide, Erica covered this, but we feel 75 feet can be appropriate because it mirrors the nearby Bellevue district and then steps down to where you have 55 feet at Burlingame Avenue. Next slide. And then there are other buildings that are at 55 feet and above, so we don't feel we're setting a precedent in that regard. And if you can go to the next slide, I'll hand it back over to Haley, who will go through some of the design and talk about really, even though we are talking about a building that is 75 feet tall, what we're doing with the massing and setback and how we deal with the transparency and the landscaping can make the building feel much smaller than it actually is. In fact, our expectation is at a pedestrian scale, the building will feel closer to a 3-story, 2 or 3-story building in some areas of the building than a 4-story and 5-story building. Haley?
Thanks, Neil. Next slide, please. So the leading goal of this project is to promote well-being in the office and create a world-class amenity-driven environment where you can see daylight, green, and the beauty of natural wood all around you. Next slide. So we took this guiding principle to inform the building geometry. So we're bringing the green from the ground floor up through the project through a central spine. Next slide. Central atriums and outdoor terraces with operable glazing allow for lush landscape experience for the user and dynamic calming building elevation for the city. Next slide. This vertical green spine culminates in a green roof on the pavilion, framing views back down to Burlingame downtown. Next slide. So our ground floor hosts commercial and retail spaces, as well as state-of-the-art co-working and amenity spaces for tenants with integrated landscaping throughout, and really focusing on this street engagement. Next slide. Each level is punctuated by atriums cutting down the floor plate, which is well suited for single or multiple tenant splits, with each tenant having access to both the north and south decks, as well as egress stairs. Next slide. So as we step up the building, the exterior decks terrace back at the southwest corner, allowing light to penetrate further into our office floor plate. Next slide. The pavilion level, or the 5th floor, has a reduced footprint with a buffer of green all around it. It's detailed with large glass windows, wood mullions to have a distinct but complementary personality to the curtain wall of the lower floors. And it's also designed to be mostly obstructed from Chapin Street ground view based on this setback. Next slide. The project additionally has 2 levels of below-grade parking with a glass box lobby that really starts the hospitality experience upon your arrival. Next slide. So we're committed as a firm to designing projects that last and become iconic to the urban fabric and identity of the place. Next slide. As a nod to some of the architectural moves of existing historic buildings, we're providing some curved edges at the east and west to soften the corners of the building, gesturing towards the city and acknowledging Burlingame's history. Next slide. The glazed tile is a modern interpretation and similar scale to red brick employed on neighboring buildings throughout Burlingame. We're pairing the structural wood with the light bronze aluminum mullions and metal fins keep the project warm and light, feeling both modern and contextual. Next slide. The interior palette is simple, with polished concrete floors and exposed wood, accentuating the green landscape and natural daylight all around. Next slide. The openness and transparency of the project provides something new but familiar to Burlingame's walkable streetscape with covered porches, engaged sidewalks, and seating with activities filling the public way. And we purposely designed this to keep the pedestrian level human scale at the south side. You're stepping back 1, 2, 3 stories, so it feels much smaller. Next slide. At the east and west elevations, the project provides more solid wall with modest openings so that neighbors have an interesting building facade while allowing some privacy. Next slide. At the north garden, the project mirrors a central green atrium on Chapin Street with a green wall bifurcating the project, giving a visually appealing green-clad view for our north neighbors while also capturing great northern light for our project. The glass allows for transparency to break down that elevation. Next slide. 1430 Chapin is situated northeast of 1440 Chapin. It does not cast meaningful shadows onto this neighboring property throughout the day at all times of year. Through at the north, 1430 Chapin ceases to shade the residential properties by noon at all times of year. Next slide, please. We feel confident that this will be a game-changing project for Burlingame, bringing energy and foot traffic down Chapin Street with its elegant spans, restrained palette, and showcasing that a truly sustainable building. We feel that this design for 1430 Chapin will set a new benchmark for a Class A office building in the Peninsula and the South Bay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
I don't even know where to start. Yeah. So the first thing I want to ask is, it's just a clarification. So if you would take your top story off, you're saying it is then 60 tall. Is that what you're saying? If you take the top off and you do the whole, what you have now, -1, so you've got your podium area, is that what you're calling it? Just take one off. What height are you?
That's correct. 60.
If you could please come up to the lectern, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's correct. It'd be 60 feet.
Okay.
What we would still be looking to do and what we had originally designed was to have an accessible roof deck. And that's kind of where the pavilion story came in. So we can get people out on the roof and engaging the views and enjoying the landscaping that's up there.
Okay. So, and the second, I guess it's a question, on the sides, particularly the one that faces the what is probably still a home or an original home. Why is it's a lot, that's a huge lot, a huge parcel. So why is it so straight up and down? Did you think about some variation on that side? It's kind of monotonous.
We did consider different architectural setbacks on both sides. What we ended up with was shading the setbacks towards the rear of the facade to kind of maximize decks and to get people out there and to maybe respect the residential area behind us and kind of increase the rear setback between the residential street of Bellevue and our rear setback.
Okay. And what else was I going to say?
But it's something we can look at.
Yeah. I don't know if I should say this now or wait, but well, I'm going to wait. I would like to hear from my colleagues. Thanks.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Question on the glass. Is it going to be treated film? How are you going to deal with the heat gain? It's a lot of really big glass.
Yeah, so we would specify a low E coating with treatment on it. It would be an IG unit. So we have shades on the structure as well. So that metal panel that you see that partially shades provides UV protection for the mass timber and also provides shading for the glass into the building for solar heat gain.
But no other shading planned inside? You're thinking that the users are going to use it straight?
No, likely we'll use mechanized shades for the interior. But as far as building architecture, right, it's the coatings and the fins around the building.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant?
On a practical perspective, looking at the, I think it's a ground floor plan. I see where the trash area is. Just trying to think logistically how trash will be brought out. Just come right out to the street. So it's by the stairs, I think, or somewhere.
Yeah.
There's the recycle room, refuse recycle room. How would that be handled? Because a truck won't be able to approach and empty the, yeah, anyway. You can,
Yeah, so a truck could bring up to the side and then we would roll the trash out through the driveway. There is a roll-up door in the trash room where trash would be able to come out the driveway.
and then the truck will be parked in that drive through that aisle going down to the parking?
Correct. I think we would have to look at the clearance to get it down. If it couldn't go down, it would just stay on the side and we would roll it out.
Hmm. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And the left side, let's see on this rendering. On the left side of this page, gosh, I think it's page 2 of your Exhibit A. Trying to understand, is that a building like there? I think that's your building. In the rendering, there's a white building. Show you this,
Yeah, that's 1430 Chapin.
the neighbor.
Correct.
And so you're right up, because you're 0 setback, right?
We have a 5-foot
proper line.
setback. We have a 5.
Oh, 5 foot.
I think the rendering and the angle makes it look like it's right up against the edge, but it's not.
If you go to the first floor plan view, you can see the setback. Yep. Oh, sorry. No, that didn't quite make it in. Yeah, 1440 Chapin is kind of a U shape up against our project.
Mm.
So it's right up to the lot line where there aren't windows, and then it's a 13-foot setback where there are windows. So between our building face and those windows, it would be about 18 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Have you engaged any contractors yet for this build?
We're currently working with the build group on the pre-construction, and at this point, our plan is to kind of continue forward with them.
Have they talked at all about build time, projected build time for this?
Somewhere between 18 and 22 months.
And did they talk about how the mass timber affects that timeline? I'm assuming it's faster with mass timber.
Correct. I can let Haley answer that, but it should speed up.
Yeah, it should be significantly, or it should be faster than steel or concrete construction, because we kind of look at how the panels can be prefabricated offsite to the sizes we need. It's kind of a plug and play, having the structure go up, and then kind of typical construction sequence after the structure. So you're really saving time in the structural construction.
And I assume you'll leave the sourcing of the material to the contractor, or do you have any sort of like domestically driven material in mind?
Yeah, so typically we work with suppliers super early on so that we can understand their plate sizing. So for example, a CLT might come in 10 or 12. We would work that into our structural system. So we're not buying a 12-foot panel, cutting it down to 10. So we have domestic sources that we use. We're actually working with Timber Lab in the United States. So yeah, I think this is an opportunity to use domestically sourced lumber.
Yeah, my line of thinking is that I wouldn't want a construction project in the middle, and then we have a tariff game going on right now, and then all of a sudden the project comes to a halt because we just got a 30% price increase on the most expensive part of the building.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for the applicant? Okay, then we will now have the members of the public attending in person to speak on this item. I did get 3 speaker requests in no specific order. I will call you up and you have 3 minutes to speak. First one is Russ Miller. Come on up.
I'm Russ Miller. I'm the president of the Redwood Crest Homeowners Association, located and a homeowner located at 1435 Bellevue Avenue. Our condominium building abuts the Chase Bank building, the proposed building site at 1430 Chapin. We're deeply concerned about this project and feel it's totally inappropriate for Chapin for a variety of reasons. A 5-story building is way beyond what most of those buildings are in that block. They're homes, they're 2 stories. It just doesn't match. In our view, the proposed building is very much out of proportion in height and size. This proposed building will be taller than the current building that the city hall is going to be in. And it will just fill up the street when it's not filled in other places. Other buildings are surrounded by parking lots. They're 2 stories. It's not that heavy a density area. So we oppose any amendment to the downtown specific plan and zoning code to increase allowable heights. We also oppose any building on the site that's so close to our property as this one's proposed to be. And we would like to be part of this develop, as this goes along, we want to be part of this process. Several homeowners are here tonight, along with me, and I think it just is inappropriate for that position. It's going to look like a big box put in the middle of up in a multi-level area.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is Nels Delander.
Hello, Planning Commission. My name is Nels Delander with Carpenters Local 217. Bill Group is a signatory to the Carpenters Union, and they'll give good carpenter jobs for the local area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Pam Waddington.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to address you all. I appreciate this first time here. I'm Pam Waddington, a 20-year plus resident of Redwood Crest, 1435 Bellevue Avenue. Here today to also express my concern about the 1430. It's a beautiful design, I will say that. It's a gorgeous design. But I'm just going to read from my notes. Specifically, the request to change the height zoning from 35 to 55 to 60 to 75. Specifically, to have a 5-story, 75-foot office building will not only be out of character with the neighborhood like Russ described, but as well as Chapin Street, but it'll also overwhelm the surrounding properties. And I was struck by one of Neil Young's comments about they want to deliver buildings that look like it's been there for some time. Gorgeous building, but it doesn't strike me as it's been there for some time. Additionally, concerned about how close this building will be to our homes and whether the required setbacks are adequate to mitigate the impact of our privacy and daily living. I understand the current zoning allows for 20 feet. That's not what we have today, but just would like you to consider that. I'm submitted a list of questions. Thank you, Erica, for responding to some of them, to public comments in the planning department. Realize many of them are for the economic development department, so I look forward to hearing about those as we move forward on this. Bottom line, my overarching concern regarding the proposed height zoning amendment relates to the impact on residents in the community. A structure this high and this close to our building will do 4 things. It will drastically reduce our privacy, as windows would be looking down and into our living spaces. It will block the sunlight and darken our homes. It will diminish the peace and the solitude we have enjoyed in our backyards for years. And then, in my opinion, it will negatively impact our property values, because who wants to move into a condo that faces a 5-story cement wall and windows and people linking into your living space? I do want to say the artist's renderings are really striking. I do like the design, and I would hope that this commission would consider how that might be adjusted to fit within the current allowable zoning regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we read in the email or?
No, we don't need to do that, but we should ask if there are any other public comments.
Any other members of the public attending today in person would like to say anything? Yeah, please come forward.
Sorry for not submitting. I didn't know that this was even on the agenda, so I'm not prepared for this, but my name is Katie. I've been a resident of Burlingame and Hillsborough for my entire life. This is a beautiful building, but I agree that it does not fit what Burlingame is. This is very modern and just not what I feel encapsulates the town of Burlingame. And I would caution increasing the height limits here, because all of the other areas then are subject to the same or similar buildings. You're going to have major increases in height limits here, and that increases density and infrastructure usage. You're talking police, fire, water, energy, electricity. All of those things need to be taken into consideration. On the notes here, it did mention something about a lot merger, but that was not brought up. It also does talk about tentative condo map. I'm not sure what that is. It was unclear in the presentation. So I think clarity on that. It's discussed here on the notes, but it wasn't discussed in the presentation. But yeah, I just would like to say publicly that I really caution you and would really consider setbacks, even if, you know, a huge metal wall looking at your your into your home is jarring. There's no design or anything on the sides of this besides the front area. They're talking about having a social area, but yet there's really no space here that's open. There's no, you know, greenery or open areas, which like 12-month has, which is really great. You can go in and sit out there and you're outside. This is all encapsulated in a glass building. So I also think, you know, that could be taken into consideration, as well as I believe that you guys have discussed tiered buildings for the Broadway specific plan. Maybe that could also be taken into consideration here for the Sun. I would like to see going forward if you guys can have if there was, I guess, a Sun map, but I didn't see what the current Sun looks like. This was what their proposal would, what the effect would be, but I didn't see what the current Sun looks like. So we can't compare, right, to what it is now to what they have presented. So I'd like to see a side-by-side of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else attending in person wish to speak on this item?
My name is Jim Bellex and a lifelong resident of Burlingame and San Mateo. And I came thinking that I was going to object to more massive buildings in Burlingame, but architecturally, I love this building. And I do have concerns though about how it affects the neighboring streets and the shadow effect on other buildings. And I also wonder how the city tends to address this as an investor next door. Secondly, I would say that the idea of breaking up the mass of it may solve the problem of keeping this beautiful design. You know, I've always thought of Chapin as sort of the stepchild of Burlingame Avenue in the sense that it's smaller, more charming. You know, the Burlingame Nursery was there for a long time across the street, and that was always a really pleasant place to visit. And we've kept that architecture in some of the buildings that remain. So those are my thoughts, and I guess I would wonder, I think those comments about the sun and the heat, I know that the high rises in San Francisco get quite hot in those offices that are in the corner windows and such. It sounds like they have shades that will mediate that, but I don't know if it's going to be a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to speak? Okay, then close the public hearing. Commissioners, who wants to start with the comments?
I can go.
Mr. Schmidt, start her off.
My main concern is really the glass and the scale. I feel like the floor to ceiling glass without any breakup in it are very large pieces and maybe too much being able to see in. You know, I'm doodling on it and I would actually probably break it up into thirds and with some sort of horizontal element and or consider the use of spandrel glass to try and reduce the amount of incoming sun, heat gain, visibility, and try to make those floors have a little bit more scale to them. I feel like we're missing just that next layer of detail that brings in the more human scale of the building. Looking at the Chase corner itself with the glass going down to the ground, I don't see you being able to buy glass that big that's laminated and isn't going to get beat up by skateboards. So I'm wondering, I think that there needs to be a ground plane connection, that one is a little bit more durable and provides a bit more of a foundation, and then will also help bring scalability to that first level. Totally agree with the floor heights and the need for that, for the high plates for the retail on the ground level, and can totally understand the heights on the other levels. So it's not that, it's just the perception of the glass, particularly in the rendering. It needs grids. It needs something to bring it back down into smaller sections so it doesn't seem so massive. I'm nervous that with that much glass, the tenant's going to say, I need mechanized shades inside, and all we're going to see is shades. So what you hoped that I would see, the beautiful wood structure that you're investing in, I'm going to see beige shades. So I'd rather see an architectural solution than a decor solution for that idea. I like the tiering in the back. I can understand the sheer heights on the sides, because chances are you're going to have neighbors with buildings at some point in time too. So I think that, you're doing the best you can with tiering in the back to try and reduce the sheer height towards the residential piece of this. I like the wood. The whole wood concept looked great. I think it's a nice add to this, and it'll make it a nice professional building, which I really see this block of Chapin as becoming more of a professional building when you've got all these financial institutions now there. So it's not as much a heavy retail or restaurant, but I do think that having Chase in the ground floor and having a food and beverage in there will actually help invigorate this block as well. So I think that's a good thing. So for me, it's largely the scale of the glass is challenging for me. And I think that's all I got.
So bear with me. I've spent probably 3 or 4 days walking around the side. I went on the back on Bellevue so I could see what was happening there, and walked actually up and down the street a bit to see what other properties were there. And it's very beautiful back behind the condo, and there are little homes and things like that I didn't even know were there. It's gorgeous. It's a paradise back there. It is there. Some of the buildings are tall. By the way, that's nothing new. They were tall in the 20s. But the difference is they're heavily landscaped. So I don't think a comparison can be made between a 75-foot building on Bellevue and one here. And actually, it will be higher than 75 because you've got the screening, which probably brings it to 85. If there's housing, it climbs. So it's not that I don't think the building's nice. It's very pretty, but I can see this getting kind of out of control if we're saying we're going to redo that section of or amend the downtown specific area plan. That worries me a lot. And it worries me a lot because we do have a lot of big buildings that have been done in the last 5 years. Some are really pretty new. They're empty. Actually, 2, the ones that are 55, and they really are 65 with the panels on the top, and they look plenty big, and they are, one is occupied, the other is, I think, almost all occupied. The ones on California Drive, the very large one on Park Road is, I think they have a partial tenant at the top, and that's a huge building. They got a variance because of they had to deal with the historic building, but also that huge water thing going through the middle. So they had a reason to do it. So I am worried about a crawl of massive structures, not necessarily as nice as this, ending up on Chapin on both sides. And I think that is a negative impact. And I don't think that was the intent of the downtown specific plan. As a matter of fact, I worked on the downtown specific plan and I know it was not the intent. It is true, Chapin is very wide, but it was supposed to have, it became that way over time, used to be all residential. Our plan was if we had, our druthers, we could get a median down the middle, make it more pedestrian friendly, all the things that are not affordable. So what we have is what we have right now. And I think it's a big ask because you want to do this type of timber that you're doing this height. You could do the timber and make it 1 story lower, and maybe we look at something that is, I guess you were saying 60 or 65 or I don't know the numbers anymore, but because they do crawl up. And I am particularly concerned when you get in the area opposite the library, which is also in this. Those are very narrow lots. Primrose is not wide. And so then you potentially get, I'm going to call it a monster building. I don't mean yours is a monster, but that scale that overshadows the library. So you're talking a huge area. Personally, I would be more amenable to looking at just this, not trying to make everything like yours, just this project, not an amendment. And I would love to see you look at something I found in the general plan called variable massing. It says allow for development projects to incorporate variable massing approaches that provide an overall average building height with an individual development project rather than strict maximums. So that way you could, it's a mathematical thing, but you could say this block is what we get right now with 55, build all the way out, because you did setbacks, you didn't have to do them, right? You could go all the way out. What is your envelope? And then start chopping away the way you have already done in a lot of spots and figure out how do we get to the average of 55 feet and make it work for this project. That way you will still have a beautiful project, I think, but you're not subjecting an entire area to something we really can't predict how it's going to look, because not everybody will be as thoughtful. And in the future, if there's housing on a lot of these, we're not allowed to say anything anymore. So that scares me a lot, that this is a very large area where we get just big buildings with very little say on what they can look like. So I would urge you to look at variable massing, and I guess those are the main things I want to say. But as it is, I think work could be done on the big tall walls, and particularly the sides and back where it's really kind of where the straight walls are and there's not much variation on them. Maybe there, if you did variable massing, you get credits for chopping out certain parts. You know what I mean? It's like a cake in your, so, thank you very much.
Sure. So I do think that it's possible that that street could handle larger heights, but I think it's a good point that those height limits were set as part of an overall plan for the entire area. And so I'm a little bit more hesitant to talk about increasing the heights in that area without a little bit more in-depth look into why they were set that way. What are the conditions on the street? What's that going to affect the surrounding areas? So it makes me a little bit nervous to do it for one specific building, which I do like. I think the building looks awesome. I'm really happy with it. I do actually have one small comment on the building. When you are in the drive-in to the underground garage, if you're driving out from the building towards the street and you look to the left, there's a gap in the wall where you can see out to the sidewalk. If you look to the right, does not appear to be a gap. It's just a sheer wall. And the only way you could see to the right on the sidewalk is if you pulled all the way out to where your wheels are on the sidewalk. Think if I was looking correctly on the floor plan, there was some kind of mechanical enclosure back there, so it's not as simple as just cutting a window out. But if it's possible, I think that would definitely increase the comfort of pedestrians using the cafe there. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything my fellow commissioners have said.
Commissioner Say.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to commend the beautiful design and the creativity, the the unique thought process to designing this building, not like any other that we would see. And I like the warmth from the timber elements throughout the building. I echo some of the same comments that my fellow commissioners have. I do see this street being fairly wide. I can see it being able to sustain taller buildings, maybe not necessarily as an entire zone. I think that I would be more of a proponent for kind of one case by case evaluation of a building height for each parcel that may come before us. But I'm trying to think a lot from a pedestrian perspective or kind of like human scale perspective. That fifth floor is set back pretty far from one who would be walking down or even driving down the street or even across the street. May not even really see that fifth floor, so I don't really have as much an issue with that height, the height of the proposed structure. That I feel like there are adjacencies that we should be concerned about. Neighbors, residences behind. I'd like to see, I didn't see in any of the materials kind of an overall streetscape or even a far enough back rendering where we can kind of see the relationship of the building to other buildings on the street, or even from the other side. If you're looking from the north side, how does it relate to the buildings in front of or adjacent to it on that side? I think we need to be sensitive to some of the surrounding neighborhoods. And I like the idea of the variable massing term. I had noted just a transitioning of height to adjacent properties, that there be some more recognition of what's happening on either side. Of course, we never know if the house to the right suddenly becomes also it could be a large residential building. It could be another commercial building. We have no idea what plans might be coming for a property next door. But at least for now, to try to recognize this scape, kind of like a little cityscape along that street, and like to see some variation. I think you've done a nice job with that front cascading or tiering effect on that south facade. And but again, as a pedestrian, I like to see a little bit more interaction of the building with one walking down the street or visiting the cafe or the bank. There's beautiful greenery inside the corridor, the central core of the building, up on the roof. I can see all of these areas, but how does one get to enjoy any of that if you're a pedestrian walking down the street? You don't feel like you're invited to partake in that. And so it'd be nice to see some of that happening at the street level, some additional fixed seating, whatever it might be, to relate the building to us as humans. I also had the note about the fins coming out of the garage that you would have to really, or out of the driveway, you really can't see what's coming on the left and right. So maybe some little bit of care or attention to that would be nice. Let's see. I think the right side, I don't know what to say about that, because again, I know you're trying to face maybe something that might be happening in the future there, but I also like to see a little bit of some setback, like how we have what we typically look at our declining height envelopes and on the residential front, just seeing something set back a little bit to relieve some of the airspace and the light space for the neighbor to the right. As we know, the sun pattern for the most part is going to be happening along the south and the west. And so I'm worried about the shadow effects on the properties on the right and the rear. And that's something I would like to request, is to see a more thorough shadow study. That it went by so quickly in your presentation, and I don't think we had it in our materials to see the shadow analysis. So I'd like to see that in greater detail at the next presentation. But again, commend the design, and thank you for giving us opportunity to comment.
Yeah, for myself, I don't disagree with anything the Commissioner said. I would just like to highlight, what Commissioner Pfaff and Commissioner Shores said, that it's tough to to raise the maximum allowable height substantially from 55 to 75, because it could incentivize, as they said, additional upzoning down the road, and that would be, I don't think, great for the neighborhood. But we, as Commissioner Shores said brilliantly, it was like we haven't had the benefit of a broader planning dive here. So it'd be tough to make that type of across the board change. And we've seen several large scale buildings on this commission, and most of them come with some sort of tangible public benefit. And I think that it should be good to highlight that if you're going to ask the public to go with a higher tolerance, then there should be a tangible public benefit. And cafes can count and things like that, but not everyone's a Chase banker. And so it doesn't necessarily, and to Commissioner Say's great point, like the pedestrian experience, I think, needs to be highlighted a little bit more, especially given the ask here. On the next go around, I would like to kind of know the viability of not doing 75 feet. Like, does it not pencil out if you don't do 75 feet? Is that the real issue here? I love the idea of doing the mass timber. I'm a builder myself, and I think it's a great way to use sustainable resources. It also gets erected much quicker. It's a lot less stress on the community, not a bunch of spinning cement trucks everywhere and steel being pounded into the ground. So that part I like a lot. Shorter construction time. And again, I may have already said, but the building's beautiful. So it's not like you have to start from scratch. I think looking at some of the tiered approach that's working real well for the rear may be a good look for the entire building. Again, I'd echo my fellow commissioners. I'm not opposed to a large building like this, but there needs to be a give and take. And I think maybe a little bit more step backs, could certainly help here. So on the next go around, I'm looking for a tangible public benefit, something that we can really articulate and talk about because of the size of this building. And then, like I said, if there's really a viability issue of not doing 55 feet, and then to Commissioner Pfaff's point, why then do we need to incorporate the entire Chapin zoning district with that change? And that might be even a question for staff on the next go around too. But other than that, do we have any other comments?
I think that I did ask that, and I think the comment was they had no grounds for a variance, so this was the only way they could get those heights.
That's right.
But that's a big ask to change a whole area for one building.
Right.
And I'm having trouble with that. So.
Okay, yeah, I remember the question now. Thank you.
Well, then I'd like to ask the question of, then we have 4 or 5 other buildings within the area that are also in 5 zones. How did those get to be 100 feet? There's the one around the corner.
Which ones?
So you're referring to the existing buildings? We would have to look in our files to see. I mean, variances, special permits used to be approved for increased in heights many, many years ago. Some of these buildings were built in the 60s, where you can't do certain things like the way they used to then, just based on law. But that's how they got that tall. They also asked for exceptions.
I mean, I think it's a valid point that we're struggling with, is we're not just trying to approve one building, we're changing a district, which maybe a little beyond where our scope traditionally is, because this seems like something that would more likely go in front of city council as a whole rather than just us.
Right. Well, you're in your capacity, you are recommending this you would be recommending this action to City Council. I did want to point out on the last page of your staff report, there's some kind of questions, things for the commission to consider. From what I saw today, it looks like some of these items are already being prepared by the applicant, like a shadow study. I think we would probably ask for color elevations, which I believe I saw earlier today, renderings of different angles of the building, not just the front. I think that'll all help you, better analyze the project. And I think based on the discussion and really good comments today, your probably motion should be to continue to study and have the applicant come back and show the commission how they've addressed your concerns and your comments tonight.
And if they could really look at variable massing, that's a term that probably hasn't been, it's in there, but it probably hasn't been used. And I think the intent was, probably came up when even just concepts about the post office were being brought up, how to deal with that and how to do with averages. And I think because this is already tiered, it would be really great if they get closer to the 55 or what it's actually in reality, it's 65 by the time you have the screening on. I think that would be a good compromise, and then we don't have to deal with the whole changing everything. And then everyone's treated equally. I think that's, they can do what they want. And then if something really goes awry and we get a box, well, it's not 90 feet tall, it's 55. So, right.
But now the other thing to consider is the requested amendment. It's still, to get up to 75, it's a special permit request. It's not a by right. So we would, as a body, would still have the right to review a height above the 60-foot mark for special permitting reasons. And if they didn't have it, we wouldn't give it.
But 60 is still more than the 55. So if you look at the two, if I can just continue, because I spent many. If you just look at the two on California Drive, they didn't ask for special permits. They're at 55, they're brand new, or pretty calm, 5 years old, or less. And they've got the thing at the top, which is 10 more, and maybe an elevator, so that's 10 more. So they managed to do it. And so it's a different product, but I don't think we should become trendy. So that's a dangerous, what if the next developer comes and says, well, I have this other great thing I want to do, but I need even more, or maybe this becomes, this timber thing is passé at some point. I mean, to go change a whole area for one building, I think that's the problem I'm really having with it, so.
I have a question in regards to some of the concerns about density bonuses. I think maybe I'm wrong, those work off of percentages, right? And it's like if it's 35, you get 50% on top of that. I could be totally wrong, but my question is, do we know if those count based off of the base height, which right now is 35, or would that count on the 55 if there was a special permit?
It's on the 55.
Right.
Density bonus only applies to housing. And if you're right in that it goes by blocks, the amount of, the level of affordability you provide and the number of units. But what you do is request a waiver or an incentive. And it doesn't limit how much you can ask over the maximum height.
Okay, so there's no relation to whatever the base is at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds like we should probably continue this to another study.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I think it would give them an opportunity to incorporate what we've said.
I agree. Does anyone want to motion that?
All right.
In your motion, I think there were a lot of good comments. Sounds like the commission was relatively on board with the direction given to the applicant, but I wanted to double check that because in your motion, you'd want to refer to the direction that was given in your discussion. So if there's anything that you heard that you're absolutely against or not in agreement with, this is the time to say that, but otherwise you can just refer to the comments made during your discussion.
Oh, do I dare try this?
You don't have to list everything. Say, I know this is a more complex.
I will try this. So I'm going to make a motion to continue this item at 1430, is that right? Chapin Avenue, to address, and thank you very much, by the way, the public and the letter writer who wrote in, I understood what they said, to address massing, the scale, the general, how they could come closer to the actual area maximum height allowable height, and keeping the same general design, that it should also deal with more tiered approach on the sides to respect the neighbors, that it should have more ground level interaction, so there's some pedestrian benefit, public benefit. And by the way, that could also involve medians that were a nice to have on Chapin at some point, but a public, like a fund, I don't know how you say that. What else am I missing? That the glass, how closures are going to work, how the sun will be shaded in some logical way that doesn't detract from the timber that is being shown off in this case. What else am I forgetting? The fin on the side, the visual obstruction by the garage. What else?
I think the shadow study was a.
Oh, shadow, yes, thank you. The shadow study in particular, just more detail on that so we could really see also how the building looks in its setting, because we're seeing a very limited area, how it actually looks on Chapin, some maybe photo montage or something, Chapin with the, the way it is now with the building set in, but a larger view. What else? And yeah, variable massing to try to get to an average that's closer to or at 55, because I think that's doable if they do some carving of the cake. Something else? Am I missing something else? I think we're pretty much on board. Like there's only 5 of us here, but I'm guessing the others are probably not that far off from.
I think there was also the item to address visibility for vehicles coming out of the site.
Yeah, I said that.
For pedestrians.
Yeah, I called it a fin, but yes, visibility. So, yeah, and
I believe that covered it pretty well, unless other remember.
think so.
Any other item?
Also, respecting the neighbors all around, how that would work. And, one thing I did think of also, as I'm blabbing away, because it is large, and even if it's 55, it's large, it's got a lot of glass. What happens with the lights at night? How does that? Pardon?
You're in the middle of a motion.
Oh, I'm in the motion. Oh, maybe I can't add that right now, but I am curious.
Correct. I think you can get a second, and then we
Okay.
can discuss it, and then you can add, and then the second can agree to that.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Okay, and then do we open the whole hearing just to get that one thing? Oh, the vote?
Yeah,
Oh, I have-
so we have a motion by Commissioner Pfaff, second by Commissioner Say. Do we have more discussion on the motion?
Yes, I am curious with all that glass about what happens at night with the light. I mean, that could be really an issue. So
So hopefully they can address that.
they can address that would be great.
I second that.
Thank you.
Revised motion.
All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Pfaff,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Commissioner Say,
Aye.
Acting Vice Chair Shores,
Aye.
Chair Lowenthal.
Aye. So that motion passes 5002.
And this, just for the public, this item will be noticed as a public hearing once it gets scheduled on a future agenda.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our study session this evening. Next on the agenda is item number 9, staff and commissioner reports. Were there any commissioner reports? All quiet? All right, staff, do we have any?
Nothing from staff.
Great. If there's nothing else, then we will adjourn this meeting at 8:34 p.m.